Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. So I'm getting to the much anticipated video on the Peter Carey Nitro Mini flipper. And this is a new, I don't know if we want to call it a mid-tech, semi-production, whatever. I'll tell you guys how it's made here in a minute. But this is a new model coming directly from Peter Carey. If you guys have heard or know of Peter Carey, or if you haven't, Peter Carey is a custom knife maker out of Texas. Certainly one of the kind of top tier in terms of tactical, kind of modern tactical folding knives. Peter Carey is certainly one of the best. His auctions go for, crazy money when he does auctions. So if you're into custom knives, you have undoubtedly heard of Peter Carey. So he's got his full custom pieces. He's got pieces like this, which are somewhere in between production and custom. And then he has done some production collaborations with the likes of Spyderco, such as the Rubicon and the Magnitude. I did videos on those whenever they came out. I think some of them are a few years old now, but I think the Magnitude is still in production, whereas the Rubicon has been discontinued. Either way, we're going to focus on this one, so let's jump into these specs real quick. We'll grab some of the usual players here, the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. We've got the Kershaw Dividend, another one that I've been using more recently, and again, it's been selling well, so hopefully some of you guys have it, is the Mastrop Gent. So a little bit smaller knife here. Final size comparison with this knive's bigger brother, the Nitro 5050. So in terms of specs, we've got a blade length of just about 3.2 inches, handle length of 4.4, giving us just about 7.6 inches overall. In terms of some of the materials, blade steel is done in CPM 20 CV. The handle's obviously titanium pocket clip, titanium back spacer. Does run on bearings that are running directly on the titanium, I believe, and it does have a stainless steel detent, but it's a flat-faced stainless steel detent, which is part of the reason we're getting a really nice action on this one. So let's talk. So those are the specs. I think I gave you guys the weight, 4.44 ounces. If I did twice, my apologies. But anyways, overall impressions. It's a really nice knife. It's well made. It's obviously smaller than the big brother here. It's a little bit more pocket friendly in terms of size. I do prefer the satin on this one as compared to the, I don't know, kind of a bead blast stonewash here on the 5050. Action's really good. Pocket clip works well. It's really well dialed. So, it's a really nice piece. Now, let's talk about it a little bit more here, kind of beyond the impressions, but we need to talk about the price. So this piece is coming in right around $500 from Peter Carey. At dealers, it will be a bit more, and we're coming up to Blade Show here. It's actually this week in the time that I'm filming this. Peter will not be at Blade Show, but he will have just a few of these with two dealers, which are Arizona Custom Knives and Tri-City Custom Knives. And when I mean a handful, I mean they're very limited in supply. The entire run is going to be no more than 50 and perhaps even less than 50, once quality control and other things. I don't know if he's going to scrap pieces. He would, though, if he didn't like them. So, yeah, let's dive in a little bit more, because there's a lot of things to talk about with this knife, namely how it's constructed, what it is, whether the price reflects or justifies that, that's completely up to you. But we've got the perfect comparison. This is the Peter Carey Nitro 5050. This piece has been out for a couple years, and let's talk about this one real quick. So I've had this one for a couple months. I haven't done a video yet. But the Peter Carey Nitro 5050 is a knife that I had been hoping to purchase, or not actively chasing, but it was on my list for about 2 years. And the reason is, at the USN show in Vegas probably 2 years ago, Myself and a couple of friends, we had 3 of these in front of us in the cove or whatever, the gathering area. And all 3 of these 50/50s were all completely identical in terms of action. And the action is superb. Just explosive, kind of violent action. Just has an incredible opening, and obviously it's been really well tuned, and it's got a flat-faced detent ball, which certainly helps. But I was really impressed by the consistency, and that's how this one ended up on my wish list. I had a friend who hooked it up. I got this one for a good price, and so I bit the bullet and snagged one of these. Now, this piece has been in the works for I want to say like 2 years. It takes a while to do these types of things, and so this one, the way that it's built, the frames, or the blade is water jet, the frames, the back spacer, and the pocket clip are CNC'd, and then Peter does everything else by hand. Hand grinds the blades, obviously the jimping. He then, obviously tunes and sets the lock bar and makes sure everything is, put together well. And that's why he calls it the 50/50, because half of it is machine work and half of it is him, essentially. So, and these pieces, typically go for around $700-ish or so, table price. And secondary, I've seen them up to $1,600, but typically somewhere around $12 to $14. Anyway, so that's this piece. Now this one comes to him completely assembled. The machining is done by a guy in New York. I won't say his name because most of you guys don't know him. And these come to Peter completely assembled. And then what Peter does is he takes them apart. I think he flattens the detent ball, but he certainly tunes and quality control and makes sure that every single one of these is as consistent as humanly possible in terms of the action and the feel. One thing that I like about Peter is just that level of consistency. If you go up to his table at a show and you handle his custom knives, I'm going to say with a pretty solid certainty, you will not find anything on the table that will disappoint you. And again, some of you guys would say, well, it's a custom knife. That should be the case, and to be honest, that's not always the case. Sometimes when you walk up to makers' tables, you might have one knife that has incredible action, and then another knife that is rather disappointing, and another one that's somewhere in between. So it can vary knife to knife, even on top tier custom makers' tables. But I've never found that to be the case with Peter's work. There's just a level of consistency that is really second to none, and I think he stands out among a lot of the custom makers. And one of the reasons is if a piece isn't good enough, it will not end up on his table. He will take that thing and either chuck it in the trash, or it'll never end up at a show, because he understands that reputation is more important than trying to squeeze a few dollars out of his customers. And that's the reason that he's been around and doing this full time for, I think, 12 years now, and he's going to continue to be around for a long time. And I think his work is always going to be in demand. So again, so this piece is coming in at around $500 from him, a little bit more at the dealers. There'll be a few at Blade Show. And, who's this knife for? Because around $500, that is not inexpensive by any means, and it's not a custom knife. So there's 2 people this knife is for. One would be someone who can't afford his custom work, but isn't quite satisfied with the Spyderco offerings. They want something in between, and they're okay paying around the $500 price point. So, someone like me, I can't afford, or I can't justify carrying a $2,500, $3,000 custom knife that was handmade by Peter Carey. So that's one person. That's where I fall in. The other is, you might have guys who actively collect Peter's custom work. They may have 2 or 3 or 4 of his custom knives, and they love them, but perhaps they don't want to carry those pieces because, again, pretty expensive, handmade. They may treasure them as collectibles more so than knives, and so something like this they could probably carry guilt-free. So I mean, those are the 2 people I see. Again, if $500 is a lot of money for you, which it is, then check out the Spyderco offerings, the Rubicon or the slightly larger Magnitude. I thought those were well done custom knives. So, rambled on a lot here, but let's look at this one in a little more detail. So we've got that Really nice, kind of almost a polished stone wash here. You can see me, I have not fixed my hair today. It's Memorial Day, I barely left the house. Jimping, really nice. It's kind of an upswept ramp, very effective, not sharp, beautifully done. Again, steel CPM 20 CV, perfect edge, nice and sharp, no concerns about that. Flipper tab is beautifully done, jimping, it just works, it works well. So, frames are done in that stone washed. You've got the Peter Carey pivot. So Peter designed this pivot years and years and years ago. A lot of people started using it, maybe not with his permission, but the pivot here and the over travel stop were made by Stephen Kelly, who makes a lot of knife parts like pivots and such. So it's got Peter's pivot made by Stephen Kelly, and the over travel stop, 3D mill titanium clip. Got a lot of spring to it. Works really well in jeans, thankfully. You got that kind of dragon spine back spacer. Anyways, a lot of nice machining. Centering is perfect. Lockup is really solid. There's no lock stick, so just really well executed pieces. So, anyways, between the two, they both have equally good action. I will say that the smaller one has more lock bar pressure because obviously the lock arm is shorter, essentially. I prefer the satin finish here on the smaller one. I think most people would prefer the smaller one. This larger one, I can't remember what the blade size is, but it's fair. This is a fairly large knife. I don't have a ruler near me. Anyways, so again, this 3.2 inch blade is just more user friendly, or pocket friendly, I should say. So let me take a look at my notes, see if I missed anything. I think that's about it. So again, really cool piece. I think a lot of people who like Peter Carey and like his work and want something a little bit more special than the Spyderco collabs will be really happy with this piece if they can get one. Obviously, these are going to sell out at Blade Show, and then they're going to, if you can find someone selling one on the secondary market, they're going to be, more than the, 500 or 550 that dealers might be charging. They're going to go up in value because it's limited and because people really like Peter Carey's work. And honestly, because they really like Peter Carey as a person. I think he's a good dude. His wife is really nice. I've spoke with them at multiple shows now. So, again, I was hounding Peter to get my hands on one of these for the last year and a half when he started talking to me about the project. So, really cool to see it. I really appreciate him letting me kind of share this with you guys and put this one in front of the camera. And yeah, if you don't make the Blade Show, again, just a handful are going to be a Blade Show. The USN show, I believe he will be there, and he will have some of these on the table, so that would be another spot to check them out. And then I don't know, maybe a few more might trickle out to dealers throughout the year. It's hard to say. As far as like the Nitro 50/50s, I mean, he only makes 12 of these a year, so this one is also, again, fairly limited in number. So yeah, all right, we will go ahead and end it there. Comments or questions, let me know. Again, for you guys who know what this is, you already know that you want one. You're just sitting here looking at this in high def, and the decision has already been made. But thanks so much for watching. You can follow me on Instagram for more daily content, and I will be at Blade Show coming up, so maybe I will see you there. Take care.